And every year on the date of the accident, it runs again as a warning to others, plunging into the gap, shrieking like a lost soul.
Percy, what are you talking about? The ghost train. Driver saw it last night. Where? Asked Thomas and Toby. He didn't say. Oh, it makes my wheels wobble to think of it. Huh, said Thomas. You're just a silly little engine. I'm not scared. Thomas didn't believe in your ghost, said Percy next morning. His driver laughed. Neither do I. It was a pretend ghost on television. Percy was disappointed. That evening, he came back from the harbour. Percy knew where he was, even in the dark. Crow's Farm Crossing. We shan't be long now. He liked running at night. The rails hummed and the signal lights shone green. But a broken cartload of lime lay ahead. Sam the farmer had just gone for help. Percy broke the cart to smithereens. Lime flew everywhere. He puffed quickly to the nearest signal box. Percy's driver explained what had happened. I'll see to it, said the signalman, but you'd better clean Percy or people will think he's a ghost. Percy chuckled. Do let's pretend I'm a ghost and scare Thomas. That'll teach him to say I'm a silly little engine. Toby promised to help. Thomas was being oiled up for his evening train. Percy's had an accident, cried Toby. Poor engine, said Thomas. Botheration! That means I'll be late. They've cleared the line for you, but there's something worse. Out with it, Toby. I can't wait all evening. I've just seen something, said Toby. It looked like Percy's ghost. It said it was coming here to warn us. Huh! Who cares? Don't be frightened, Toby. I'll take care of you. Pee, pee, pip, 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 pee. Let me in! Let me in! Wailed Percy. No, no, not by the smoke of my chimney, chim. I'll chuff and I'll puff and I'll break your door in. Oh dear, exclaimed Thomas. It's getting late. Oh, I'd no idea. Oh, I must find Annie and Clarabel. It was morning when Thomas returned. Where have you been? Asked Toby. Ah, well, said Thomas. I knew you'd be sad about Percy, and I didn't like to intrude. I slept in the goods shed, and... Oh, sorry, can't stop. Got to see a coach about to train. Percy was none the worse for his adventure and was still enjoying himself enormously. He had heard everything. Well, well, well. What do you know about that? Anyone would think, chuckled Toby, that our Thomas had just seen a ghost.
The little engines were busy clearing their railroad of leaves and broken branches. Peter, Sam, and Rusty often worked together. One day, Rusty helped Peter Sam to a water tower. Peter Sam felt much better after his long drink, but the freight cars were bored. Let's break away. Their loads were heavy and the couplings old. One snapped. Faster, faster, shouted the freight cars. A sign read slow steep bends and ravine ahead, but the silly cars never saw it. Then, it was too late. Peter Sam arrived at the scene of the disaster. His driver sighed. This was our fault. We didn't secure them properly. We'll have to get help to pull them out. Sir Topham Hatt will be very annoyed. And he was. You will work in the yards until I can trust you again. Duncan was delighted with Peter Sam's dilemma.
Fancy not securing your freight cars on a hill. They'll come back to spook you and your special funnel.
Woo! And who's to say you're not afraid of ghosts? Snapped Rusty.
Ghosts. Things that go bump in the night. Rubbish.
Well, I'll tell you a story that will make your funnel quiver, Rusty said. A long time ago, a little engine was returning home. It was a misty, moonlit night. Suddenly, the engine lost control and plunged over the side into the swamps below. He was never found again. But many a workman will tell you that when the moon is full, they have seen the little engine trying to get home. But he never reaches the other side. So what do you think of that, Duncan?
Rubbish,
replied Duncan. Never mind him, Peter Sam. He'd be frightened if he really saw a ghost. This gave Peter Sam's driver an idea. Let's play a trick on Duncan. The next day, he spoke to Duncan's driver and fireman, who agreed. We'll do it tonight. Duncan had to take coal cars to the slate mines and then bring cars back. Duncan's driver decided as part of the plan to cross the old iron bridge.
Haunted bridge. Rubbish, snorted Duncan. It's as tame as a pet rabbit.
But all the same, he kept thinking about Rusty's story. When dusk fell, he was keen to leave.
If we don't go now, Scarloey will take my favorite place in the sheds.
We have to collect our cars first, his driver replied. He could see their plan was working because Duncan was nervous. When night fell, they set off. The mists were rising around the old iron bridge. Duncan whistled, and the sound echoed everywhere. Then, ahead, he saw flickering lights. His driver knew they were only insects that shine brightly at night, but to Duncan they looked like an engine. Next, his driver secretly threw a rock from the cab into the ravine below.
It's the ghost! Take me back! Take me back, please!
When Duncan reached the safety of his shed, he closed his eyes tightly. Spooked, are you, Duncan? Laughed his driver.
No, I'm asleep.
And Duncan refused to open his eyes. He did, though, when he thought his driver wasn't looking, just to make sure that he was still there. The engines on the island of Sodor look forward to Halloween. They love Sir Topham Hatt's fireworks and the children dressing up as wizards and witches. They also love Edward's spooky stories. They say that on Halloween, the ghost engine returns to the smelters looking for his lost whistle. Ooh, 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 spooky, the engine said, all shivering a little. Later, Sir Topham had arrived. Thomas, Percy, and Duck, I have a special job for you. You are to collect some scrap from the smelter's yard tonight. On Halloween? Don't worry. You will be back in time for the fireworks. Percy isn't worried about missing the fireworks, teased Thomas. He's a scaredy engine. I am not called Percy, but he was a little. At the smelters, all Percy could think about was Edward's ghost engine. Thomas knew Percy was scared, so he teased him even more. What's that up there? Thomas squeaked. Is it a spook? It's just a piece of twisted scrap, Percy said nervously. Isn't it? Thomas was having fun. He kept on teasing Percy. Careful the ghost engine doesn't get you, Thomas said. There's no such thing as ghosts, snapped Percy. Duck felt sorry for Percy. Nobody's brave all the time, said Duck. But I'm not a scaredy engine, Percy insisted. The job was nearly complete. Well done, the yard manager said. Now I'll need one engine to finish up. Duck wanted to pay Thomas back for all his teasing. Please, sir, he said. I'm sure Thomas wouldn't mind staying. Of course not, Thomas boasted. I'm not a scaredy engine. So Duck and Percy left. When Thomas was by himself, every sound and every shadow was spooky. He was beginning to feel very scared. There's no such thing as ghosts, he said nervously. Who's there? Thomas was so busy looking for ghosts, he didn't watch where he was going. The chains felt like ghost fingers. Something's got me! Thomas wheeshed and set off an old steam whistle. Ghost whistle, said Thomas, and he raced away as fast as his wheels could carry him. The ghost engine is after me! It was naughty of Thomas to tease you, Percy, said Duck. He was only playing, said Percy. I hope he hurries up. I wouldn't want him to be late for the fireworks. He's after me! I don't think he'll be late, said Duck. Duck and Percy joined the other engines for the fireworks. Where's Thomas? Percy asked. He'll miss all the fun. It would serve him right after all his teasing, Duck said. But Percy was worried. He went to look for his friend. He found Thomas all alone in the shed. Are you all right, Thomas? He said. Yes, I'm sorry I teased you, Percy, Thomas said. Duck was right. We all feel scared sometimes. And we all have to say sorry sometimes, said his friend. So come on, Thomas. We can watch the fireworks just as well from here. And he was right.
What's that moving in the corner? What's that shadow on the wall? Don't be afraid, don't be scared, it really is nothing at all. But I saw something in the corner. I saw that shadow on the wall. It's just your imagination. Look, it's just the wise old owl. Boo, boo, choo, choo. Don't be afraid of the dark. It's easily explained. You see why things go bump in the night. Boo, 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 choo, choo. Don't wander from your track. And don't be afraid, don't be afraid, don't be afraid of the dark. The little engine wandered. He thought and thought all night. Really nothing's changed, it's just the same. Just daylight turned to night. But something moved in the corner. A shadow crossed the wall. He closed his eyes, counted 10, and remembered the wise old owl. Boo, boo, choo, choo. Don't be afraid of the dark. When the lights go out and you have your doubts why things go bump in the night. Boo, 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 choo, choo. Don't wander from your mark. And don't be afraid, don't be afraid, don't be afraid of the dark. So don't be afraid, don't be afraid, don't be afraid of the dark. Boo, boo, choo, choo. Don't be afraid of the dark. It's easily explained. You see why things go bump in the night. Boo, 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 choo, choo. Don't wander from your track. And don't be afraid, don't be afraid, don't be afraid of the dark. What's that moving in the corner? What's that shadow on the wall? Don't be afraid, don't be scared, it really is nothing at all. But I saw something in the corner. A shadow crossed the wall. It's just your imagination. Look, it's just the wise old owl. Boo, boo, choo, choo. Don't be afraid of the dark. It's easily explained. You see why things go bump in the night. Boo, 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 choo, choo. Don't wander from your track. And don't be afraid, don't be afraid, don't be afraid of the dark. No, don't be afraid, don't be afraid, don't be afraid of the dark.